It's a great pleasure and honor to participate in the Hispano-America Tech Conference. The title of this presentation is Insights into Spanish and Korean Student Challenges in ePortfolio Use and Ways to Overcome Them. There is a growing literature on the ePortfolio in higher education. The ePortfolios have been gradually implemented in a broad spectrum of disciplines in undergraduate and graduate programs. Despite the numerous studies that explore students' perceptions of ePortfolios, only a few of them apply the activity theory. Therefore, the main aim of the study is to explore perceived constraints encountered by students in Spain and Korea within the activity theory framework, as well as the ways they overcame them. The participants of the study were 10 students from a university in South Korea and 10 students from a university in Spain. Most of the participants were women, which is quite common for educational degrees. The age of the students ranged from 22 to 30 years old. Semi-structured interviews were conducted with the participants. The interviews lasted between 15 to 30 minutes. Then they were transcribed, coded, and analyzed. Data coding used a thematic approach with themes drawn from the students' interviews. Response frequency of each theme was calculated and analyzed. The analysis of the interviews of Spanish and Korean students revealed categories of constraints that were generally common across both groups, although for some of them there was a slightly different focus in the responses. The first type of constraints identified in our study are community object constraints. Here you can see that Spanish students reported that the ePortfolio is not commonly used for recruitment in Spain. Also, they were not able to implement it in their teaching context. Furthermore, they had difficulties related to their master's degree course context, mainly due to overload of work and assignments. Regarding Korean students, they stated that ePortfolios are not a common job requirement in Korea, and that balancing between work schedule with master's degree coursework was challenging for them. The next type of constraints are tools subject constraints. Spanish students reported that their platform is not intuitive and user-friendly, while Korean students complained about lack of technology skills and unstable free version of their platform. The following type of constraints is subject rules constraints. Spanish students reported that there were too many requirements for the ePortfolio assignment, while Korean students found collecting all the required evidence of learning and use of English difficult and challenging. There are two culture-specific constraints, such as subject-object constraint that was identified only in the Spanish students group, who expressed lack of appreciation of the value of the ePortfolio, and the second one is a community subject constraint reported only by Korean students, who found giving and receiving feedback from their classmates about their ePortfolios challenging. In this chart, you can see how students overcame their challenges with the ePortfolios. The Spanish students overcame their constraints generally through practice, perseverance, looking at good examples of ePortfolios, and asking others for help. Korean students also overcame their difficulties through practice and perseverance, time dedication, trying to find examples and templates they could refer to and use, not comparing themselves to others, and keeping it simple. Our findings indicate that activity theory was successful in identifying constraints and tensions related to the ePortfolio activity systems in Spain and South Korea. To our surprise, there were not as many cultural differences regarding ePortfolio perceptions and ways students overcame their constraints as we had expected. This can partially be explained by the fact that in terms of health status cultural dimensions, most of the indexes for Korea and Spain are very similar. You can see it in the following graph. The most striking difference between Spanish and Korean cultures can be seen in the long-term orientation dimension. Maybe that's why Korean students valued enhancing their technology skills through making the ePortfolios, because they believe technology is the future of society. There's also a slight difference between Spain and Korea as for the individualism and collectivism cultural dimension. Korean students felt the need to produce portfolios that were of a level comparable to those of other students. They felt embarrassed when their ePortfolios were below the level of their classmates. The fact that there were not many striking cultural differences might be, as some researchers indicate, due to the rapid changes of the globalized world we live in, where the cultural differences are becoming less and less pronounced. Our findings also show that both Spanish and Korean students can solve many challenges related to the ePortfolio use on their own. They are autonomous and proactive, searching for help and taking actions. This is an important finding, especially for instructors, as it reveals that there are some aspects of the ePortfolio that students might need support with, and others that they can deal with on their own. Instructors are sometimes expected to solve all the issues and challenges related with the ePortfolio implementation. However, students are able to solve many of them independently. Nevertheless, there are still some issues that should be addressed at the institutional level, such as technical characteristics of the ePortfolio management platforms, availability of technical support, training, and resources. This finding is consistent with many other studies that you can see on the screen. It is hoped that this research will contribute to the literature on the ePortfolio use investigated under the activity theory lenses and add useful insights into user challenges faced when adopting ePortfolios in higher education. Thank you for your attention and interest in this study.